The Jupiter SE resin printer. Let's give it a review. Biff, pow, zap, clunk, clunk, ouchie. Hey guys, back in April 22, I reviewed the massive Elegoo Jupiter, a huge solid metal beast that weighed enough to make moving it a two-person job, but was sufficiently robustly built to justify that weight. It had a large menu screen, a simple but effective auto feed system, and possibly, just possibly, a hint that it could be upgradable. Now, even then, the screen performance was a little disappointing. Frozen had already released its 8K Mega Monster, producing 43 microns of XY resolution. But the Jupiter had a smaller 6K screen. So that possibility of modular upgradability was something that I felt it really needed. Well, nearly 2 years on in this fast-moving industry, and there's no sign of that upgradability. But recently, Elegoo asked if I wanted to review their Jupiter SE, and I was very excited by the possibility. Just a few weeks ago, we saw Frozen release its Mega 8KS, a printer that hadn't actually moved forward within that same time frame, but which had taken on new features to reduce weight and sales price. I actually grinned with excitement when I scanned through the paperwork on the Jupiter SE. Had they delivered a killer blow to Frozen? Had they slipped in an 8, 12 or even the 14K screen that we've been hearing about, making this the best large printer available right now? Actually, no, they haven't. Instead, they've kept the same 6K screen. Now, that's not a death blow by any means, but I think it's disappointing and it's a serious lost opportunity for Elegoo. When we look at large volume printers, in terms of print quality, this means that Elegoo is still at the bottom of the pile. However, if the Jupiter SE has not been upgraded over the original Jupiter, then perhaps like the Frozen 8KS, this is an exercise in cost cutting to make these massive printers more accessible to the average consumer. Let's assume that and take a look. In terms of appearance, it's a handsome printer. Gone is the meaty metal carcass, and in comes the more delicate plastic exterior, resulting in an impressive weight drop of approximately 50% against the original Jupiter. The perhaps overly engineered and somewhat awkward to level build plate has gone, being replaced with something more streamlined with a sensible and reliable 4-point adjustment system. The Z-arm, however, thankfully remains beautifully wide and sturdy. I like big butts and I cannot lie, and so does the designer of the Jupiter SE, it seems. This is apparently part of the cooling system, though I've never seen the like of it before. The build volume remains the same, which is great to see, though it's accessible through this removable plastic lid, and this, for me, is a massive mistake by Elegoo. Frozen faced an equally massive plastic lid with their 8KS, but they cleverly integrated a flip-top design that allows for easy access. Elegoo's research and development department, on the other hand, gave us handles. So what, you say? Big deal, it's got handles. I know, but this is a taller than average printer, and presumably it sits on a worktop that needs to be lifted up and over a suitably tall Z-arm. And for many people, that means lifting a lid over their head. And to me, that doesn't seem a good design. Luckily, the lid isn't very heavy, but it suggests to me that Elegoo hasn't put as much thought into this project as we'd ideally like to see. The resin tray is capacious and metal as you'd expect, fitting into place with helpful positioning feet, and fixing with removable bolts. But what is missing from this build plate is the sticking out bit that gave the original Jupiter a simple but effective resin self-filling system. Elegoo's R&D department have scrapped that in favour of a more complex fill and extract pumping system. This connects to one of two provided USB ports, the second of which is now for the ubiquitous Elegoo carbon air filter and not for a heater, unfortunately. This mechanism fits inside a standard Elegoo resin bottle and connects via tubes to this feeding device, ready to extract resin from the bottle or return it once finished. It works automatically via the very clear but scaled down menu screen, and obviously it can be turned on or off. It has 3 speeds, apparently, though I cannot confirm this as unfortunately mine doesn't work. Now, I'm not a big fan of resin pumps anyway. I'd much sooner see a heater than a resin pump or an air filter, but that's just my personal preference. However, rather than delay this video a few weeks whilst I waited for replacement parts, I thought it easier to say, these things happen. If we visit my database of real user information, we can see not all printers arrive perfect. But it seems that Elegoo does a better than average job of sorting things out for their customers, so that's something to be reassured by. But whilst I couldn't test this feature, I did notice an irritation that seemed to slip by those Elegoo R&D guys. The lid has a groove cut out of it to accommodate the feed device. This surrounds it closely and neatly, which looks nice, but unfortunately all too often results in the unit being pulled free of its sitting position when the lid is removed. I'm sure this could be countered by enlarging this area slightly with a small file, and perhaps using double-sided tape on the base of the feed unit. But it remains an annoyance that could have been avoided with a little more forward planning. Thankfully, there is evidence of forward planning when we look at the location of the USB port and switch. Whilst perhaps more ideally situated on the front, these can be found on the right hand side, certainly close enough to make access easy. As regards slicers, Elegoo are typically advertising Cheetu Box and Voxel Tango, but there's no sign of lychee. However, I've had a quick chat with the lychee guys and they're already on the case, so lychee lovers, don't worry, you'll be able to use this with the Jupiter SE. When it comes to printing, Elegoo kindly sent me a bottle of their 8K resin to try. This is white smoke, which translates as light grey to the rest of us, and it seems a capable resin. I was enjoying testing it on a few pieces when I dropped the bottle. Yes, it's something we all dread, and it's usually accompanied by much swearing and hours of sticky, smelly cleaning. What I did have to hand was a little Anycubic Craftsman resin, and this certainly printed as well as we can expect. This is a 51 micron printer, giving us the sort of quality we'd see on the Elegoo Mars 2. After the success of my VogMan castle design, I've been toying with this Tudor townhouse. It's a 4-section model in 32mm scale, and it fits comfortably on most mid-range printers. However, I was able to squeeze 2 of these sections on the very large Jupiter build plate, and these came out pretty well, I hope you'll agree. If you like the look of this model and have an FDM printer or a mid-range resin printer, it's available for free on Thingiverse, Printables and Cults 3D. There's links in the description to get you there. So the Jupiter SE prints as well as the original, and it's clearly made from cheaper materials. There's no fancy flip-top lid that could potentially have cost a fortune to design. There's just a couple of plastic handles and a resin pump. This means Elegoo should have succeeded in reducing costs and making the Jupiter SE more accessible than their heavy metal Jupiter. Well, that's the strange thing. At the time of recording this video, there didn't really seem a massive price difference to me. If we ignore the apparent sales prices, because these websites always have sale prices, there's a difference of just $190 US. Now, okay, that's not a small sum, I get that, but somehow I was expecting more. So what do I think of the Elegoo Jupiter SE? Well, it certainly prints as well as the original Jupiter, though it is a shame that we didn't see a screen upgrade. The weight has significantly dropped, which is a good thing, but the lid isn't ideal considering its height. There's no Wi-Fi or Ethernet connectivity, but there wasn't any on the original Jupiter either. And the only real update I can see is the resin pump, which unfortunately didn't work on my printer. If you personally favour those, I think a little fettling and double-sided tape will be needed. If I'm honest, it feels to me that Elegoo have launched this printer just for the sake of launching a printer. It doesn't seem significantly better or significantly cheaper. Don't get me wrong, if I was looking to buy one of these two, I would probably go with the Jupiter SE, because as there's no real differences, I may as well go with the cheaper option. But of course, the choice isn't mine, it's yours. Do you think Elegoo has done enough to justify this new model? And that's it for this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Take care, and thanks for watching.